Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son break down all things Bears. From Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns, I'm your host here, Dylan Weaver, and as always, joined here by my dad. Well, Dad, the 5-game winning streak comes to an end in Lambeau Field. The Bears fall 28-21 to the Green Bay Packers. The rivalry that really hasn't been a rivalry in the past decade seems like it's getting back on track of being a rivalry. Ultimately, the Bears fall short. Last minute, driving down the field, looks like the Bears might have a chance to tie it, or as Ben Johnson said in a press conference after the game, he was going to go for two. But the Bears fall short in this one. There's so many different things to take away from this game. But what were your initial thoughts after watching the game and ultimately losing a heartbreaker?
Here's my takeaway. The Bears in the second half played a phenomenal game. Caleb Williams is only in his second year with 4 games left to go, right? Some of those throws he made during those games, the touchdown pass, the pass to Komet, the Zacchaeus touchdown throw through the defender's hands into Zacchaeus' hands for a touchdown. The future is bright. I wanted to win it like you did, and everyone else that's a Bears fan, they wanted to win it too, right? Just because been on this heater of a win streak. We're number 1 in the NFC, but I went back. I watched that game 2 times now, just to relive the agony of it all. But you watch it, and was there some bad decisions made? Sure. There's some argument about that last throw of the game before the interception of, you could throw it to DJ, or you could have done this, you could have ran for it. Armchair quarterback stuff, right? Monday morning quarterback stuff. But you watch the second half, and it's a good competitive Bears team, in my opinion. And you know what? This time last year, we didn't have 9 wins under our belt, and we didn't look the way we looked. In fact, by this point last year, I think we're on our 3rd head coach potentially at this point, or whatever it was, with all the shenanigans that happened last year. But I'm excited. It was a pipe dream for 15-2. I think for many, 9-4 was a pipe dream. Right? Where Vegas had the odds at. You're the odds maker or the bookmaker. So where we are at with as many games as we got left and the performance we did have, let's be honest. It was a second away from another touchdown to tie that game up, or as you said, Ben saying he's going to go for it and get 2 and win the game. I'm excited, as down as the dumps as I was after that game, the clock's hit 0. The team's good. The team's good, and we got a lot to be thankful for, and future's going to be bright. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. When the game first initially ended, obviously it sucks, losing to Green Bay, our rivals. It was, the biggest takeaway for me is just like we've been saying all season with the fight and the resilience that this team has. It was 14-3 at halftime, and Chicago did not look like they belonged in the game at all, like we've been known for in the past decade. It's easy for this team to tuck their tail between their legs and just give up, especially with the weather, it being, feels like 6 degrees over there in Lambeau Field in hostile territory. But they come out in the second plan, make adjustments, and they fight. And like you just said, it comes down to one play at the end of the game to potentially tie it, or like Ben Johnson said, go for 2 and win the thing. Now, if we scored the touchdown and didn't get the 2-point conversion, I don't know what would have been more gut-wrenching. But nonetheless, it did hurt. But like you said, I do believe the future is bright. We beat the Eagles last week, coming off the season high for sure of a victory. And, people – but hold on. Let's stick on the Packers for a second. We beat the Eagles and their territory pretty dominantly. And, the thing is, we could have come into this game, get blown out like it was looking like it was going to be, and then they could totally take that away from us. it was a fluke. But the Green Bay Packers have he's Jordan Love's top 5 in MVP voting. The Green Bay Packers are a top 5 in Super Bowl favorites, and we went toe-to-toe down to the wire. And if we clean little things up, this game could have went the whole other direction. And honestly, the first half in general, the offense just looked terrible. It looked rough. We couldn't get the run game going like we've been relying on. And then on top of that, the passing game, which part of it's on Caleb. He missed some throws, but the other part of it too, it was like the first time we've seen this year our O-line get absolutely dismantled. Caleb's around there, even in the second half, running around for his life for the most part and doing his magic in the second half. But the first half, it didn't look like we were ready to play, and Green Bay came a lot more prepared than we were. Obviously, they got off to a slow start too. Both teams didn't score in the first 2 possessions. It was 0-0, but by the time Green Bay got their third possession, they started marching down the field on us pretty easily. And, ultimately, too, it should have went into halftime 7-3, but Cairo kicks the ball, doesn't land in the landing zone, and they get the ball at the 40-yard line, which fine. All right, now you might give up 3 points. No, we give up a 50-yard touchdown with 30 seconds to go before halftime. That almost felt like a dagger right there. And then second half starts, defense gets a 3-and-out, does their job. Caleb Williams drives them down the field, scores that touchdown off that pass you're talking about to Zacchaeus, where it was like, oh my God, how in the world did he catch that? The following play, they go for a 2-point conversion. Monangai looks like he gets stood up at the 2-yard line. Here comes Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson pushing him into the end zone. And next thing you know, it's a 3-point game. The Bears are right back in it. And it was, it was a rough first half, but the second half definitely gave me signs of hope. And like you said, the future's very bright. They're going to get another shot at them here in a couple of weeks in Soldier Field. And there's a lot of stuff to clean up. And honestly, I think there's a lot more stuff to clean up defensively than offensively. But let's talk about the offense first. Let's talk about that key play at the end of the game, because there's a lot of controversy about it. People saying, DJ Moore's open, which is definitely hindsight. And I think, usually we do our post-game shows right after the game, but with us traveling, getting back at different times, it's ultimately why this episode's a little late, but it's honestly a good thing because we get to hear a lot more, see a lot more before giving our instant reaction and saying stuff that might not totally be true or accurate, more so just our opinion. But Ben Johnson talked about it. For all you people out there that think DJ Moore was open, Ben Johnson stated clear as day. DJ Moore was open after the ball was already in the air to Cole Kmet. The Packers did a good job of covering up DeAndre Swift, where Ben Johnson mentioned DeAndre Swift was the first read. Then Caleb has the option to run the ball. Didn't look like he would get the first down. There's also people arguing he would have got it. No, there was 2 guys right in his face about to kill him. And then lastly, yes, Cole Kmet leaked open. He is the second read in the progression. Caleb ultimately sees him a little bit later probably than he needs to, and also needs to deliver a better football at the end of the day. But there is one thing I definitely want to talk about. Dan Orlovsky obviously works with ESPN. He does commentary for some of the games, but he broke down the play, and it was essentially the same play we scored with Cole Kmet in the Eagles game. However, there is a very big difference in this play compared to the other one. The other one, DJ Moore runs his his crossing route in front of the linebackers. This one, DJ Moore in the play design ran behind our offensive line and did that, which is ultimately why Nixon was able to go and make that play. And shout out to him. It was a hell of a play, the ground he covered to get there. But if they run the same play, the same design with DJ crossing in front, Nixon wouldn't have been able to leave DJ Moore, and he would have had to stay on him, and then Cole Kmet would have been butt naked. But instead, since DJ Moore goes behind the line of scrimmage, it ultimately gives Nixon that freelance where he knows he can back up if he needs to, because DJ Moore ran behind the line instead of in front of the linebackers. And at the end of the day, too, it's just got to be a better throw. Ben Johnson announced it, too. You just got to Caleb said he saw Nixon, and what he tried to do in his post-game presser, he said he tried to throw a jump ball pretty much to Cole Kmet to give him a chance when he probably either should have let him a little bit more or he just needed to put a little bit more velocity on it to get it there faster without letting Nixon to make up that ground and get underneath it. But end of the day, sometimes, you just got to tip it. It was a great play by Nixon. If you watch that replay, he literally came from the far side of the field all the way over to get in front of that ball and ultimately seal the game for the Packers. And it sucks because Caleb was doing everything he could in the second half of just making play after play after play, getting us back in this game. And the biggest throw he needed, he ultimately fell short. But, the Bears have been on the other side a lot of times this year. Sometimes it's just, another team made a better play. It just sucks. It had to be against the Packers, but hats off to them. It was a good play, and it was a great game, honestly. I got to go to an all Chicago sports bar, and for the first half, it was pretty dim in there. And then the second half, when the Bears climbed their way back and got it 21-21, it was electric. And I think part of the loss was my fault. I had to get to the airport. I leave the bar 21-21, and next thing you know, Green Bay marches down the field. I leave my hot seat. Things go wrong, but it was still a fun game to watch nonetheless.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are spending too much time focusing, though, on that one play. Granted, it's the interception, ends the game. But I think about that whole first half, right? I mean, we get the interception and we don't capitalize on it. So, there's an option right there, whether that's play calling, whether that's, players in the plays. Nonetheless, you get an interception and you are the number one defense in the league when it comes to takeaways. You got to capitalize, whether that's 3 or whether that's 7, you got to get points off, especially when you're playing a team like Green Bay. And then I think about a couple other plays on there that happened. The defense, when it came to Josh Jacobs at the end, they let him get off that big chunk play, which lets Green Bay charge down the field, get a touchdown. Had we held them on that 3rd and 1, it could have been just a field goal. Now we're talking a different kind of mindset or a mind shift basically on how we're calling those plays at the end of the game. Where we're not trying to get 7, or we could have been still trying to get 7 to win the game. But I think the nerves then are a little bit different. I get it. They're professional athletes. They're supposed to operate under high-stress situations. But there's just so many different factors in this game that I think could have changed the outcome of events. But I'll stick with my opening statement. I'm a big critic of the Bears. I mean, anyone who knows me, I let them have it, right? When they lose, I don't let the other team have it. I let that team, the Bears have it. And I just see too many good things out of this team to get upset. I honestly, when the game was over, I was down, right? I was down in the dumps a little bit. I really wanted that win. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, we got a lot to be, 1, proud of as a Chicago Bears fan, and 2, excited about, right, as a Chicago Bears fan, for the future coming up. And so, we'll play these next 4 games. We'll see what happens. I know the playoff picture gets a little murky, with a lot of different factors and scenarios come into play. Bad thing is, we went from the penthouse to the outhouse with that loss. So we need some magic to happen over the next 4 games in order to consider, postseason play. But I just wish – I know what Ben Johnson's post-game speech looks like, right? When we win with the good, better, best and, taking off a shirt and let everyone eat hot dogs. And I got a feeling that the halftime speech is probably really good based on this game alone, right? I'm using that as my sample size because they came out of that second half and it was like a different team. Offensively, defensively, I mean, I think they played a great second half. If you think about what they did and how they came back. Somehow, I think Ben Johnson, though, has got to start off the game before we come out on the field with a different maybe speech then or a little bit of rah-rah, a little bit of motivation and some discipline. Because we've had this all season long, right? We start off flat in that the first half, first quarter, and then we kind of come to life, hence the name, all year long Cardiac Kids, because we come back at the end and win these games. But something's missing maybe in the first, and maybe that's just me being, critical of the whole situation. But Nonetheless, I'm excited. The game was great. Like I said, though, not the outcome none of us wanted, but the game overall was really, really good. I think Ozzie had a couple opportunities there where he missed some blocks and showed a little weakness there.
He's actually the highest graded offensive lineman out of the whole group.
Yeah,
He didn't give up. He didn't give up one pressure at all in PFF.
If you look at the one, I think it's the Monungai run where.
Oh yeah, at the end of the game on the second and one,
right.
or the third and one before the fourth and one. Yeah, he did miss a block.
So,
but pass protection wise, which honestly, like I said, Caleb was running around the majority of his. He had 10 throws out of his 35 attempts actually in the pocket. The others, he's running for his life.
And like
I said, they were up against a good test in the Green Bay defensive line, but it still needs to be better, especially how good the offensive line has been playing. It does need to be a little bit better when we play them here in another week.
And I have to wonder too, a lot of people were talking about, Green Bay home field advantage. They were a 6.5 point favorite, right? We'll find out in 2 Sundays. Is that home field advantage really the difference maker in that game? When they come to our home turf, we got the crowd, the energy behind us. Maybe it's a different scenario. But if the Packers come in, to Soldier Field and they, lay another loss on us, then it's not that. But, I got to wonder if that home field advantage had a little bit to do with that environment, right? And plus, it was 7 degrees outside.
It's probably going to be 7 degrees when they play at Soldier Field too. But
yeah. But I don't know about any of you listening or watching or whatever, but 7 degrees, it's not a lot my body can do when it gets 7 degrees,
everyone runs a little bit slower.
Yeah.
A little bit harder to make bigger time plays, but ultimately the Packers did do that. They made more plays than us, and that's ultimately the outcome of the game.
Yep.
But like you said, I still have hope. I did say in our preseason predictions, I did think they were going to split. So now it's just more pressure on the Bears. The Bears have to do their job now at home.
Yep.
Would have been nice to get the game up on them, and then you're kind of playing with house money in Soldier Field. But now the pressure leans a lot more on the Bears. But at the same time, too, it also leans right back on the Packers. Now they got to hold that like we were holding on to it for about 4 weeks. So they got to hold on to it. They got a tough matchup this week. So who knows? The Packers lose this week against the Broncos up in Denver. We take care of business at Cleveland, and it's the same stakes up again when we play them at Soldier Field for the first place in the NFC North.
Chip in a chair, baby. Chip in a chair.
But, I think I agree. The offensive wise, it's a tale of two halves. They got to come out stronger in the first half. The second half, though, that's the recipe that they need to work on. And I'm sure Green Bay will look at it too, and they're going to find a game plan to keep Caleb Williams in that pocket, because this was like vintage college USC Caleb Williams in this game. There was so many throws in this game where it was like, oh my God, that is Caleb Williams. That is what we saw at USC. And that's why you were drafted number 1, because, you were just out there doing your thing. And, before the game started, I really didn't think losing Rome Odunze was going to be that big of a factor, but you could feel it. Caleb, even Ben Johnson said it, that Rome Odunze is his little blankie. Like, it is. He's his guy to go to when he's needing a spark. And it definitely showed in the first half. I mean, we missed Rome. Luther Burden obviously led the team in receiving yards, which I think he played a massive role
Did a good job
in the game. He's starting to prove, what he can really bring to the table. And then, we can talk a little bit about DJ Moore, but it seems, we need to find ways to get him the ball. Ben Johnson even said it too, that, he was really thought DJ was going to have a good amount of targets and lead the team today, or lead the team in Green Bay. And not that he said he ran bad routes. He said he ran good routes. It's just the opportunities weren't there. So, maybe the Packers honed in on that with Rome Odunze not being out there. And they pretty much knew that all week because Rome didn't practice all week. So they knew going into the game it was going to be DJ Moore and Luther Burden, and they probably stressed DJ Moore a little bit more just to the veteran presence. So definitely need to find a way to get DJ involved, especially if Rome's about to miss another week. We don't know how severe that stress fracture in his foot is. But one catch for -4 yards for DJ Moore. So we need to see a little bit more of DJ and Caleb. Justin, not to bring up Justin Fields in pastime, but Justin and DJ had a really good connection. And it just doesn't seem like Caleb and DJ have quite got there yet on that level. But they're definitely going forward. We definitely need it.
And thank God DJ Moore had -4 yards, because if he didn't, that was going to be a fumble recovery going to a touchdown. So kudos to DJ. He held onto that ball. He got hit hard in that bubble screen they were trying to run. But there's something cooking there. I mean, I'm sure there's, behind the scenes stuff, whatever's going on there with that relationship. But I mean, he's a good player. I mean, I think we all know that. We've seen what he's done before in the past. You brought up the Justin Fields connection with him, although, I mean, I don't know if you can bring up Justin Fields.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that obviously, if you're a Bears fan, you know that DJ and Justin, that was probably the only bright spot of the offense when Justin Fields was here. And I'm just saying, obviously, I'm not saying it needs to be to that level, but it's also definitely underperforming so far this season between Caleb and DJ. So
there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense.
Yeah, and that's probably part of it too. I'm just saying, obviously, one catch, we need a little bit more than just that. But it is what it is. I really just want to talk about the defense because I got some stuff I want to bring up when it comes to this defense. And as much as the cornerbacks gave up big plays, that's not who I'm going to target here. I'm going to target this defensive line. Outside of Montez Sweats, which, by the way, was a huge sack in the beginning of the game to back them up to 3rd and 17 and pretty much get the defense off the field, we didn't get a QB hit, not a sack, not a pressure, not a single QB hit after that sack the rest of the game. Jordan Love just got to sit back there, keep his jersey clean, not get thrown around, and just sit back there and do what we've seen Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre do and just sling the ball all over the field. This defensive line has got to wake up. They need to get a motor in them. This is unacceptable, and this is what I really wanted to bring up. This defensive line is the 5th most spent. We have the 5th most spent in the NFL on our defensive line, and they are performing at a 31st rank right now, according to ESPN, of a pass rush win rate. This is unacceptable. And if the Bears do want to have a chance at a playoffs or even playoff wins, let's not get to the Super Bowl, but let's talk about a playoff win, and let alone the playoffs and making it into the playoffs. This defensive line is the unit that needs to step up, because although Dennis Allen, people can be mad at Dennis Allen for blitzing on those 2 of those touchdowns that ended up in touchdowns because that pressure didn't get home. But you can't blame Dennis Allen. When 4 guys aren't getting home because they're not doing their job, he has to send more people. Otherwise, Jordan Love's going to sit back there and do the same thing that he did even when we did blitz. So the defensive line has got to step up, and they got to make their impact on a game, because this is getting ridiculous. There's other teams out there that don't even spend half the money we do, and they still can get pressure on a quarterback. And this Packers O-line, by the way, is not they're middle of the pack. They should be able to get home and get some pressure. It was really weird to see, because the Eagles as well, they have a good O-line, and although their team is kind of trending down, we got plenty of pressure, flushed Jalen Hurts out of the pocket plenty of times last week. This week, however, Jordan Love was literally sitting there. Like I said, not a single QB hit after that sack. And that sack happened, by the way, on the first drive of the first Packers drive of the game. So you're talking 3.5 quarters of not even a QB hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. I know you're saying they need to wake up, but it's been 13 games. And you bring up the line, and this may go back to a few episodes ago, right before the trade deadline. And I said, hey, are we pulling a Chicago Cubs here where we're not going after a D end to shore up this defensive line in order to help us out to get to the postseason? Because I think even if we get to the postseason with that D line, it's a one and done, right? I mean, I don't foresee. And right now, the matchup has us playing the Packers in the first round of the playoffs. So, even if we beat them next week, we're gonna take 2 out of 3. I don't know about that, but I know you don't want to talk about the defensive backs. But have you rewatched the game again?
No, I know the defensive backs, but Dad, at the same time, this is my point. When Jordan Love is sitting back there for legit 7 seconds, you can't expect DBs to guard these receivers. You can't do it. You can't.
I'm going to, because Jalen Johnson, right? He's being paid top 5 money to be a defensive back. You got Kyler Gordon, who's supposed to be awesome and wants more money. CJGJ, I'm gonna give him a little leniency. But if you look at a lot of those slants that Jordan and them were running, they're like 3 yards behind these wide receivers as they're just flying by them.
Yeah, but just in football terms for you, that Christian Watson 50-yard slant route that went for a touchdown on 3rd and 10, the one you're talking about where C.J. Gardner-Johnson did get toasted, it's because, like I was just talking about, we're having to send cover 0 blitzes, which means everybody's one-on-one.
Yeah.
And if they get a clean break off the line, no DB in the league is matching up. I don't care who it is. You're not matching up and you're not stopping them.
That happened how many times though?
No, that slant route happened one time. The other touchdown passes were deep routes, very deep routes that, once again, like I said, took 5 to 7 seconds to develop. And this is the thing. I'm not asking them to go sack Jordan Love. But if you go look back at those DBs, Jaquan Brisker, who, by the way, was not his fault, Jalen Johnson didn't drop back into the zone that he was supposed to. But
another point.
Listen, Jaquan Brisker is a fingertip away from deflecting that ball. And that's the difference between, if you get pressure there and Jordan Love still throws up that heave ball, it's one, getting batted down, and if not, getting picked off by Jaquan Brisker. You go to the other touchdown to Christian Watson that he had on that deep post route. Kevin Byard was a fingertip away. That play took 5 to seconds to develop. Like I said, I'm not asking for a sack, but if there's a little bit of pressure on Jordan Love, that ball is probably not thrown as good, and it's picked off as well. It's stuff like that where I'm telling you right now, even though we have some of the top guys back there, when you are asking someone to run with these speed receivers for 5 to 7 seconds, you're not going to be, no defense is covering that, because you're not getting pressure on a quarterback. You see it time in and time out.
Wasn't he getting the ball out low like in 2.7 seconds?
That's what I'm talking about. Not on the one Christian Watson slant route. Yes, he got it out right away because Christian Watson smoked C.J. Gardner-Johnson off the line. But the other 2 touchdowns that were 50-yard bombs, no, those weren't getting out in 2.5 seconds. Those were getting out in about 5 to 6 seconds, and we had no one near Jordan Love. He's literally sitting back there doing his back foot, I'm going to throw the ball, and credit to Jordan Love. It's his superpower. That's what he's good at. How Caleb Williams is good on the run, that's Jordan Love's superpower. How he can sit off that back foot, plant it in the ground, totally wrong quarterback mechanics, but drop the ball right in the bucket. But that's the difference. When they're 5 to 7 seconds long, that's not the DB's fault. That's where's the pass rush and where are you guys at? You need to at least get pressure. I'm talking, he's sitting there with not a guy within 2 yards of him. That's on the defensive line.
Maybe Grady Jarrett could talk him to death. I mean, because that's about all he's done this year for all the money we paid him.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I'm just saying the defensive line, I will give you the Christian Watson one. You shouldn't get smoked that bad on a slant route. And on the replay, if you know you are cover 0, as a DB, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you're supposed to jam the receiver because you already know you're in one-on-one. You have to slow down the timing while that blitz is trying to get home. And he did. He got smoked off the line and didn't even push him. It is what it is. But the other the other 2 passing touchdowns, no, those were on the pass rush not getting home. Those were specifically, and yes, you can argue that the one with that I'm talking about where Jaquan Brisker almost tipped it, and he's not. Jaquan Brisker at least makes a heads-up play, sees that Jalen Johnson isn't getting back to his spot, tries to make a play on the ball. That is a good question because, and part of it though too is, it probably has to deal with, he's still getting out there. He was still on a limited snap count again. They're trying to work him up, and on top of that, you have to think about this. Jalen Johnson didn't play all training camp because of that injury. He's really in his second to third week of the defense. Like, yeah, he's in meeting rooms, but there's a difference. It's just like college and getting a real job. There's one thing you can sit there and learn. It's another thing actually doing it. And Dennis Allen is a different defense. He hasn't played in it much. I'm sure he'll be fine. We know who Jalen Johnson is. It's going to take him a little bit to get up to speed, but he had a good game against Philly when he was in there. This game, however, he had a couple of plays where, it didn't look like the Jalen Johnson we do know. I'm just saying though, too, on top of that, though, the bottom line is the pass rush. That's what the bottom line is for 2 of those touchdowns out of Jordan Love's 3 passing touchdowns.
But on
the
top
pass
of
rush
that,
not getting even close to touching Jordan Love.
All right, you beat the pass rush up now. Let's let the dead horse lie. Here's the other kicker, too. Christian Watson and was it Matthew Golden who got the 1 touchdown?
No, Matthew Golden didn't even have a catch.
I thought he had. We came in on that touchdown. I know that because they're like, oh, here he is. The point I'm trying to make is though we faced Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, and somehow these 2 guys smoked us. I just don't understand. I don't understand how they're subpar wide receivers compared to those marquee names that I just mentioned.
Well, I'll tell you why, because they got J.J. McCarthy throwing the ball instead of Jordan Love. That's probably a huge part of it. You give Jordan Love Justin Jefferson, it's probably a different story. I'll tell you that. Joe Flacco's a really good quarterback. There's a reason he's been in the league for 15 years.
That's what I'm saying.
It depends who's throwing you the football. The reason those players didn't. You bring up Joe Flacco. Yeah, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase torched us in that game. I was there firsthand and saw it happen. T. Higgins had 3 touchdowns.
We still won.
Yeah. We scored 47 points. It's the defensive line is at blame. That is who's at fault. The defensive line has got to wake up. I don't care. Yeah, they haven't been playing good all season, but now if there's a time to play good and be motivated that the playoffs are on the line, they should be stepping up. And especially in a rivalry game like this, it was a piss poor effort. I don't care what you say. Like I said last week, the Eagles O-line is a good offensive line. They were missing Lane Johnson, a Pro Bowl Hall of Famer, but Jordan Mailata, Cam Jerkins, the list goes on and on. The Eagles have a good old line, and we flushed Jalen Hurts out of the pocket multiple times with pressure. This game, it was not even close.
What's going on with the Eagles, though?
I get there's a lot going on with the Eagles, but still, the Eagles have a better O-line than the Packers. It doesn't matter what's going on, what's not going on. They still have a good offensive line. I think the Eagles have more problems with their quarterback and their offense in general, not the offensive line.
There's a lot of problems.
That's a different story for another day, but it's just I do think this defense has got to step up. It's got to. When you're spending this kind of money, that's the other thing. You don't get excuses. You don't get, they've been playing bad. No, you need to find a way to play better. You're getting paid way too much money, and if this doesn't get fixed, you're going to start losing games down this stretch. And like you hinted at, the playoffs here is getting pretty – it's not getting slim yet. We still have a 65% chance to make it. But if you keep if you keep messing around, it's going to get very glim and dark, and it's going to be probably a Week 18 game against the Lions, and whoever wins is in the playoffs. There's going to be an 11-6 team in the NFC that gets left out of the playoffs. And I'll tell you what, if the Bears go 11-6 and miss the playoffs, I will be sick. Because, of course, the 1 year we're good in the past 10 years, we're going to miss the playoffs and have the best record we probably had since 2006. Like, this is insane if we miss the playoffs at 11-6.
It'd be 2018 because they were
12-4, but that was a defensive team. The freaking offense sucked. And you know what happens? We went to the playoffs and lost because our offense was terrible, not because our defense. Our offense was absolutely garbage. But at the end of the day, my biggest takeaway from this game was this defensive line. They've got to wake up. It has to happen. And I agree with you too. Not to go back to the offense, but when CJ Gardner-Johnson does get that pick on the opening drive, you got to find a way to capitalize. And, you know, I love Ben Johnson, and I'm not going to critique him as much, but those 3 plays, once we picked it, were all 3 passing plays. And you could tell the first drive of the game, Caleb wasn't quite settled into the game yet, and you call 3 passing plays. Granted, you could argue, though, too, Colston Loveland, you got to hold on to that football, because if where he caught that, we were on Green Bay's 19-yard line. At the bare minimum, we at least settle for a field goal there if Colston Loveland holds on to that football. Instead, you know, the Bears honestly got lucky, because that should have been counted as an interception, because I didn't see an angle where the ball hit the ground where they could rule it incomplete. All I know is when they did hit the ground, the Packers player had the football and not Colston Loveland. He's got to hold on to that football. You know, I'll give Colston Loveland a break because he's done everything right. That was probably one play we could pick on him this season so far. So I'll give him a break, but you got to hold on to the football. And you probably do score at least 3 points, if not 7. And you can kind of put the Packers on their heels. You know, instead we get no points. Jordan Love can sit there and be like, oh, the interception doesn't matter. Let's go play football. So you got to capitalize on turnovers. I definitely agree with you. And I think I just would have wanted to see, you know, maybe a run play or 2 in there instead of 3 passing plays consecutively. But at the same time, too, if you remember, after they called the incomplete pass, it was 2nd and 10. Then we get a false start. Now it's 2nd and 15. Ben Johnson probably has no choice but to pass the ball. So that could have been due to it as well. But ultimately, bunch of little mistakes that they need to clean up, and the Bears probably win this game. Not with ease, still probably a nail biter, but probably have a better chance at winning if they clean a couple of those things up. And I'm just a big believer in, if you are going to let a team score, don't let them be scoring 50-yard touchdowns, because 2 of their 4 touchdowns were 50-yard bombs. And one, like we already talked about, was 30 seconds before halftime. Stuff like that just simply can't happen. That's another difference in the game. They don't give up that touchdown. It's, you know, tie game. The Bears are probably kicking a game-winning field goal, win 24-21. Instead, you know, you're giving up a second half touchdown with 30 seconds left in the first half. Instead of it being 7-3 into halftime, you know, you're looking at 14-3. Luckily, the Bears, like we've already talked about many times, they bounced back in the second half, came with an adjustment, woke up, started playing Chicago Bears football that we've seen this year, and made it a dogfight until the very last play of the game. But nonetheless, now the pressure builds up for the Bears. Let's talk about it a little bit before we get off of here about this playoff picture, because the Bears just went from the 1st seed to the 7th seed, the last playoff spot. That should tell you all you should need to know about the NFC right now. It is a dogfight for these playoff spots. It is a very tight race, and every game is going to matter here, especially now for the Bears after losing that game. It's going to matter a lot. And it all starts with this weekend against the Cleveland Browns. Don't care what their record is. Do not come around fooling around in this game. They got a good defense. And, you know, I'm not the biggest Shedeur Sanders fan, but he's coming off 350-yard game and 4 touchdowns, starting to find a little bit of groove. And it cannot happen this game. Luckily for the Bears in this pass rush, maybe this is a get-right game for them. 3 of the Browns' offensive linemen are hurt and aren't going to be playing in this game. 3 of them. So the Bears' pass rush better look good this game, and you better get a way to get to Shedeur Sanders, because if you do, he'll probably throw you up a couple of balls to pick off, and this should be a good game for this defense to get right back on track. But the same time, the offense has got to wake up too, because you got the leading sack leader on their defense, Myles Garrett, coming running at you, currently sitting at 20 sacks with 4 games to go. That is insane when you think about that. But this defense is no joke for the Browns. You know, they have been starting to slack off a little bit. I was looking, teams are averaging about 28 on them right now. They're not as good as they started this season. Probably that has to do with their record. They're probably like, oh, what is there really to play for? And they're starting
another
to slouch.
quarterback.
But at the same time, though, this is in Soldier Field. You got to win this game. Get back on the win column, and then you can reevaluate for Green Bay. And if you win in Green Bay and you are sitting there at 11-4, there's probably a good chance you're in the playoffs. If you want to really secure your playoff spot, instead of rooting for other teams to lose, win one more either against San Fran or Detroit. For me personally, let's win against San Fran, so we're not going into week 18 win or go home, because I will not be able to take that. My heart will not be able to take that. But it's going to be close. And some things to look out for is Detroit, obviously. They're now 1 game behind us. They do play the Rams this week. However, if you are a Bears fan, you should be cheering for the Rams, because after that, Detroit has some games. They play the Pittsburgh Steelers, which Aaron Rodgers had a pretty good week this week. Looks like he's back on track. He's talking crap to his own media. I saw on his press conference. He's feeling good. And then they obviously have us, and then the Vikings, who, yes, the Vikings have already beat the Lions, but not likely that's going to happen 2 times in a row. But nonetheless, that last playoff spot is probably coming down between the Bears, the Lions, and San Francisco. And more than likely, it's going to be coming down to the Bears and the Lions, because San Fran has a pretty easy schedule here on out. You never know. Anything can happen. It's NFL. But the Bears need to start with taking care of business at Soldier Field. Luckily for the Bears, too, 3 out of their last 4 games are at home. So that is very good for the Bears. You got the home field advantage. You're going to have the crowd on your side. Play with the momentum. You know, let's try to win these next 2 games and not give me a heart attack, because I can't take it. It's been such a great season. Let's finish strong. And all I ask, just get in the playoffs. You can lose the first playoff game. I just want to be in the playoffs. I want to get that feeling. The Bears deserve it. And I will say, if they finish 11-6 and miss the playoffs, I'm not going to be hanging my hat too hard, because it's year 1 of Ben Johnson, and that's more than we could freaking ask for. And outside of Caleb Williams' accuracy at times, Caleb is trending in the right direction. He's literally averaging a sack and a half a game right now. One stat we didn't talk about, Caleb had 1 sack, got 1 sack in that game, got sacked once. So Caleb is still proving, you know, it's not fluky. He knows how to evade pressure. He knows how to get rid of the ball. And I know it's a very small thing. And, you know, shout out to CHGO. They're kind of what got me inspired to do this podcast. I love watching them. I watch them every day. Adam Hogue over there, he's been breaking down Caleb Williams since since the Ravens game, which is a 6-game span right now. Grading Caleb Williams on his decision on every throw, if it's a good decision, if it was accurate, and the success of the play. And the whole Caleb Williams completion percentage, which I've even been hard on him too. That's probably my one hard thing I have on Caleb right now, is it needs to get more up to 65% for my liking. Caleb Williams has had 30 throwaways and since that Ravens game. And he's had, believe it or not, Adam Hogue has graded him, and the decisions have been actually the right decisions. And he's averaging right now about 3 to 4 inaccurate balls a game. But when he adjusted it, there's 14 drops since that Ravens game, and then the 30 throwaways. His completion percentage is sitting at a 71% adjusted. So it's a lot of context. The numbers don't look great, but you have to include the throwaways. And by the way, he had 9 throwaways in this game, which you saw a lot of them. It was the right thing to do, or he was going to get sacked. And you just love to see the development out of Caleb. I think the completion percentage is going to be a more thing we'll focus on next year. But it really does seem like he's starting to see the field, at least compared to last year. Last year was hold, I'm taking a sack. Hold. Try to run away, sacked. Like, it was a lot of, not encouraging things where he was, making some mistakes. And this year you can see it. But, I just think overall he had 20 touchdowns last year. Caleb's sitting at 22 touchdowns with 4 games to go. He's gonna overpass his passing yards he had last year at 3,400. He's right at 3K, right? He's right under 3K right now with 4 games to go. It's trending in the right direction, but we just need to finish the season strong. You got to win 2 out of these last 4 at least. 3 out of 4 will definitely guarantee you in the playoffs and probably avoid playing the Packers the first round. But we sit at 11-6. We probably will be playing Green Bay week 1. It really all just depends. In Lambeau. But the good news is, we saw even at Lambeau in a hostile environment, we were 1 play away from, tying it up or winning the game. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, it was a good game. Hats off to Green Bay. They played a good game. And like I said, they made more plays than us when we needed to. So hats off to them. We'll see them next week. But Bears got to focus on the Browns before they jump ahead to Green Bay. And I know Ben Johnson, he's going to get them right. He's not going to have them looking ahead. This is a very important game. This is probably the easiest game you have left on your schedule. You got to find a way to win it, no matter good, bad, ugly. But hopefully, we beat the crap out of them and get us right back on that confident level heading into the last 3, which are going to be cruelers. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if you got anything to add in there, but I think we hit it off pretty good. Pretty good summary. Overall, good game. Defense got to play a little bit better. Offense got to start the game a little bit faster, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, been a fun year.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun year. It's crazy. I hate how fast football season flies. It feels like we just recorded our first episode literally the other day, but here we are about to be week 15 or week 16, actually. And
episode 37.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but we'll enjoy these last 4 games and hopefully get to enjoy a couple more after that, watching them in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens.
You know what else we're not doing?
We're not talking about who we going to draft.
Yeah, we're not talking about our first overall draft pick. Or do we lose 2 more games so we can be in the top 5 of draft picks? So Bears are on track. Ben Johnson's doing a good job. Caleb's doing a good job. I got faith in him. Keep that quarterback for years to come. We got some things to clean up, but that's part of growing a team, right? And Ryan Poles, you're on the clock. You start mixing your pot and see what you can whip up in this draft. Get that defensive line somehow.
I was about to say, it's pretty clear what the draft is going to be. It should be defense. A lot of the offense is young, and there may be some people traded away to free up some cap space. It's definitely part of it. And that's why the Bears got to capitalize. It's with every team, no matter you play sports at a high level or a youth level, you only get that team once. So take advantage of it, enjoy it, cherish it, and do the most you can with it. Because you never know what next year entails, the following years entail. Look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs, were on a dynasty run. They definitely will go down as one of the best dynasties in the NFL, but here they are. They're not making the playoffs this year. Things can change fast, so you got to capitalize on every season that you do have where you have a chance in that fight. So don't let this slip. It's been a good season. Finish it strong, and then go dance in the playoffs. Anything can happen from there.
Absolutely.
But I think this will wrap up the show. Once again, our apologies for the delay. A lot of traveling this week and spending time together, so we had to wait to record this episode. But I will say huge shout out to our viewers out there, and shout out to Gavin and Avery for hopping on the pregame. It was our most viewed pregame episode, where it got up to 250 views. Our postgame shows are the ones that usually get up into the 300 and 400 views. But the pregame shows are sometimes struggle just to hit 100 views, but that one had 250, whether it was just Green Bay Packers versus Bears, and it heated it up a little bit. But I think it was a huge shout out to Gavin Avery for hopping on as well. Tried to get him on the post-game show with our bet, but with their scheduling and just us recording last minute wasn't possible. But I'm sure they'll join us here next week in the pregame show again. And I actually think we got one more guest, so it'll be a good one next week when the Packers, but we got to focus on the Browns right now.
I can't wait. It's a short week, and we'll see what the Bears do against the Browns. But you said Caleb isn't far away from 4,000.
He probably won't hit it this year.
Anything can happen.
He's going to be close. He'll definitely surpass 4,000 total yards for sure. With his rushing yards, I think right now he's sitting somewhere around 3350, if I'm not mistaken. He'll easily surpass that, but the 4,000, I mean, he would need to have like 250 to 300 yard games, at least one 300 yard game and a couple of 250, 275s in there. And with 3 of those games being outside in the cold, it's not likely. It definitely could happen. But we'll see. And especially against the Browns too, if they do go up early, they're probably going to pound and ground, play methodically, play smart. Now, obviously against Green Bay, San Fran, and Detroit, if those games are shootouts, yeah, there's a good chance maybe he can get close to it. But honestly, as much as we want our 4,000-yard passer, it's only a matter of time before Caleb does hit that. I'm just more worried about let's get in the playoffs. I don't care how we get there. Let's get in the dance and then go from there.
Absolutely, but it'd still be exciting for a 4,000-yard passer.
Well, let's say this. Let's say Caleb hits 4,000 yards, but we don't make the playoffs, or Caleb doesn't hit 4,000 yards and we make the playoffs. Which option are you taking?
Taking 4,000 because the first round of the playoffs anyways we're losing this year.
What? Dude, no. Bro, you are crazy. That is a dumb statement to say. That is a dumb statement. He's going to hit 4,000 yards eventually. Jordan Love might not even – Jordan Love is only 50 passing yards ahead of Caleb. He might not even hit it this year. 4,000 yards is definitely hard to do, but Caleb will hit it eventually. It's only a matter of time. That's not the goal. So this season, the goal is to make the playoffs no matter how it happens. Now, if both happen, great. But at the end of the day, the playoffs is the most important prize right now.
It might take a 4,000-yard performance to get us to the playoffs.
It definitely could if this D-line doesn't figure it out here in this last month of the season, because they need to. Otherwise, you're right. Caleb is going to have to keep doing his Houdini magic.
And there's 2 formulas, right? Your defense either holds down the other offense where they're not scoring as much, you just outscore them, or if your defense isn't doing great, you got to outscore their offense. So Caleb can do it. We got the tools. Just launch it.
Yeah, and the good news is, too, lastly, before we exit out of here, this will be the last week with Tremaine on IR. Hopefully he'll be back for that Packers game next week. It was good to see TJ Edwards out there. He made a couple of big plays in the flats, especially to those swing passes to Josh Jacobs. TJ Edwards was all over them a bunch of times. I just want to see him back. And, we didn't talk about it much on the show, and I'm honestly sick of talking about it because as much as I love Kyler Gordon, he's starting to piss me off. The guy has got to figure out how to take care of his body. Listen, I get you're in the NFL, you play at a high speed. I was a college athlete too, and I didn't take care of my body, and I was never hurt. Buddy, you got to figure it out. I know you're probably like me. You like to eat some junk food, maybe not take stretching as seriously, but buddy, you definitely need to take it seriously because the Bears are missing you right now. This is another crazy stat I read somewhere. When Kyler Gordon is playing, the Bears defense is averaging like 100 less yards given up on them when Kyler Gordon's in the game. We need him, but it looks like we might be without him for the rest of the season, the way he's going at. I know Ben Johnson addressed it this week and said they're doing everything they can to get him back out there. But until I see this guy play multiple games and full snaps, I have no faith because he just keeps getting injured. I mean, I get to the bar to turn on the game. They put the game on, and the first announcement I hear from Tom Brady is, well, the Bears lost Kyler Gordon in pregame warmups. I said, pregame warmups? What the hell is he doing? Like, if you're getting hurt in pregame warmups, that is all due to you not taking care of your body and not stretching properly and being ready to go. That's all that is.
That's called he walked out of the tunnel felt the air and said, "Ooh, I'm feeling hurt."
That is a good point, because when you are likely to pull stuff, it is in that colder weather where your muscles are a lot tighter. It's hard to loosen them up and get that blood flowing, but you got to figure it out, dude. You have to. It's a must. The Bears need you. And you know what? If that means he's ready to go come playoffs and he's fully ready to go, I'll take it. But Jesus, man, you got to find a way to get on this field, because that's another thing I can guarantee you. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a little bit of a vet. Kyler Gordon's in on that play. Christian Watson still might have caught the ball, but I'm pretty sure he would have been tackled before he could have sprinted to the end zone. But I'm not going to harp on CJ too much. He's been an amazing signing for us. Had the one pick in the game, just a bad play. He got beat one-on-one. It happens. It's football. But you know, it is what it is. But I think that's a good wrapping point up for this episode. I knew it was going to be a long one. It was a lot to cover. There's so many different things to talk about in this game. But we'll ultimately get to talk about it again here next week. But let's focus on the Browns, take care of business. But as always, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Scroll down in the description. You can find our socials down there to stay up to date with us on social media. TikTok's been doing great. Twitter, I'm pretty active on there. You'll see me chime on, people's tweets, post my own tweets. It's a lot of fun getting involved in the NFL community on Twitter. But I think that'll do it for this episode. But we'll catch you guys on the pregame show later this week as we take on the Cleveland Browns and Shadur Sanders. But until then, bear down.